Joining us now, Walid Faris. He is a Newsmax foreign policy analyst and a former Trump foreign policy advisor. Janatan Sayeh is a Iran program specialist, research analyst. He's with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. So, Walid, you got Iran's president apparently is urging authorities to listen to the, quote, legitimate demands of the protesters. What is going on right now in Iran? And are these protests, are they being blown up? Are they smaller than we think?
Basically, what the head of the regime in Iran is doing is what they have done for many, many years ago, which is a rear guard statement, calming down the demonstrators. They are afraid. The regime is concerned that these demonstrations may develop into an all-out revolt against them. There were many revolts. We remember 1999, 2009, in 2019, and of course the Masa Amini of 2022, 23, and 24. So this is not just an overnight development. This is a new wave of a revolution. This one is stronger, more organized, and of course is going to be a long-term wave of protest. The regime is concerned, and just to link it back to the previous subject that you were, dealing with, which is Iran regime or Islamic regime of Iran, possibilities of using outside wars with Israel to be able to crush that revolution. That's where the concern is. This is why recommendation to the administration to make sure that this regime is isolated and pressured and not engaged with.
So, Jonathan, what do you see when you're looking at these videos here of these protesters tearing down the flag of the Iranian military commander Soleimani? What's going through your mind? What are you seeing?
Ultimately, what we see in the streets of Iran today is a result of decades of mismanagement and rampant corruption. But most importantly, Iranians are looking at a regime that has prioritized foreign wars, supporting terrorism over the welfare of its actual own people. So because of that, we're seeing a phase where the protesters themselves have gone beyond just simple demands of reform or fixing the problem. They want regime change. And what we see more and more is actually an increase in amplification of more nationalist sentiment across the different sectors. But for this movement to be able to transition to the next phase that could eventually lead to a more nationwide revolt in a more organized manner, there are two crucial aspects. One is for the strikes to be sustained. When business people and when different laborers are on strike, that needs to be supported. But more importantly, there needs to be a defection strategy developed by dissidents and hopefully backed by Washington that would enable the democratic movement inside Iran to actually prevail.
So Jody mentioned this in her report. President Trump this week meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And Trump, basically went right at Iran and threatened military action if that country again tries to build up its reserves of ballistic weapons and kind of reestablish its nuclear program. Here's what he had to say.
Speaking of Iran, I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. If they are, they're not using the sites that we obliterated, but they're using possibly different sites. We know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, and I hope they're not doing it because we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2. It's a 37-hour trip both ways.
So, Walid, I'm trying to think here what Trump was saying. Is he saying we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2, so we're going to let Israel do what they need to do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were there. They have spoken about it. Israel now is in the front lodges of any action against the Islamic regime in Iran. What is important for our president, President Trump, is to signal directly to the regime that there will be no deals. If they build those missiles or weaponize them with nukes, there will be no deal if they have a bloodshed against their people. Once the regime is faced with this, my projection is that the Iranian people will rise. Once the Iranian people know that there is no other deal that would sell them out, and the president can deliver that, and he wants to deliver that, if he realizes that the regime is cheating, the regime is rebuilding the nuclear system, that's where things are going to go very fast in Iran if that is done. So in the past, I have recommended to our president, our administration, that this is a path that would actually shorten the war, end 3 wars, including Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas, and others. So maybe beginning of this year, we may see something historic happening in Iran, maybe.
Jonathan, regime change, does it happen in Iran? And then I guess the big question is, then what?
So what we've seen so far is that the Islamic Republic is at its weakest, whether economically speaking, it is ideologically bankrupt. And when we look at the opposition movement inside Iran, increasingly nationalist, of course, inherently secular. So there's really no concern as to what a day after would look like. We've seen the people of Iran, it's an overeducated population, majority young, and they definitely have an eye towards the West. They definitely aspire to have the freedoms that we have here. So there's not necessarily a concern as to what would happen afterwards. It's a matter of getting there. And really pointing back to the prospects of another war with Israel, we have to remember that the 12-day war, even though it started as targeting the Islamic Republic's military and nuclear capabilities, towards the last few days, they were actually targeting the repression apparatus, the arm that prevents these civic movements to thrive. So if there were to be a new round of confrontation between Israel and Iran, it is very crucial for Washington to ensure that Israel has the capacity and the willingness to really go after these sites so Iranians can define their own destiny.
We shall see in the coming days or months what happens, if anything. But it could be really big and game-changing in the Middle East. Waleed, Jonathan, always good to see you. Have a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy